We have a code red. Repeat, code red. Proceed to Central Station immediately.
Requesting immediate assistance. All units respond.
The radio crackled with panic. Screams tore through the stadium as families watched in disbelief. One of the most skilled trainers alive was locked in the jaws of a predator she trusted more than anyone. This is the haunting story of Jessica Radcliffe. Before we descend into this tragedy, make sure to like, subscribe, comment, and share, so you don't miss the real stories where trust shatters and the wild shows its teeth. Ocean Haven's grand arena shimmered under the brutal summer sun. Rows upon rows of families pressed into their seats, the metallic bleachers radiating heat. Children clutched souvenir Orca hats, waving them like flags of excitement. The smell of popcorn and salt water mingled in the air, heavy, almost dizzying. At the center of it all stood Jessica Radcliffe, calm, composed. Her wetsuit gleamed under the spotlights, her hair tied back with the precision of someone who lived for the stage. She didn't need to speak. Her very presence commanded silence from thousands. And beneath the glittering surface, a shadow moved. Mallow, 12,000 pounds of raw power, black and white perfection, a predator dressed in beauty. The show was about to begin. But what no one in the stands could see, what Jessica herself could not see, was that this would be her final performance. Because Mallow was waiting, and instinct never forgets. Jessica Radcliffe's story began by the sea. Born in Santa Cruz, California, she was a child of the tides. While other children played in backyards, Jessica explored tide pools, barefoot, crouched low, tracing starfish with careful fingers, lifting seashells as if they were treasures from another world. Her father, a marine researcher, became her guide. He would take her to the cliffs at dawn, pointing out how seabirds tracked the currents, how sea lions barked across the fog. He showed her the ocean was alive, mysterious, vast, and untamable. Her mother used to joke that Jessica had salt water in her veins. And by 10, she didn't just dream of watching the ocean. She wanted to live inside it. That hunger never left her. In college, Jessica pursued marine biology with relentless focus. Where others saw orcas as entertainment, Jessica studied them like sacred beings. She saw beauty in their danger, purpose in their silence. Her devotion carried her to Ocean Haven Marine Park. At first, she was invisible, scrubbing algae from tanks, hauling buckets of thawed fish, sweeping floors while other trainers dazzled crowds. But even then, whispers began. Jessica had a gift. She was patient, still, attentive in ways others weren't. While most trainers balked commands, she listened. And animals listened back. That was when Mallow noticed her. Ocean Haven's crown jewel. A towering bull orca, his dorsal fin scarred and bent like a blade. His image plastered across billboards, printed on t-shirts, and sold to the world as a miracle of nature. But behind the glass, trainers spoke carefully. He was unpredictable, moody, prone to sudden outbursts no one could explain. He had once slammed his massive tail into the side of the tank, shattering equipment. Another time, he lunged at a handler, teeth missing flesh by inches. Most saw danger. Jessica saw something else. Where others hesitated, she lingered. She read the flick of his tail, the pause before a dive, the hesitation before a cue. To her, Mallow was speaking a language no one else could hear. And against all odds, he responded. Within 2 years, Jessica was his lead trainer. Together, they carried the park's most profitable shows. Audiences gasped as Jessica balanced on his back, as he hurled her skyward in sprays of light. As they moved together like partners in some grand illusion of trust, reports were filed. Concerns were raised. Some begged management to pull him from live shows before something terrible happened. But Ocean Haven had bills to pay, crowds to please, a brand to protect. And Jessica? She defended him. She told anyone who would listen he was misunderstood, that with patience and trust, she could calm the storm inside him. She loved him, and that love would cost her everything. July 6, 2011. The stands overflowed. Ocean Haven's crown jewel performance, Ocean Pulse, was minutes from beginning. Backstage, Jessica prepared in silence. She adjusted her wetsuit, checked her signals, touched the whistle around her neck like a charm. Mallow surfaced as she stepped to the pool's edge. His massive head broke the water, eyes black and bottomless, fixed on her. Jessica smiled. She saw partnership. What she didn't see was the tension in his frame, the tightening of his circles, the deliberate stillness of a predator measuring distance. Because to Mallow, the faint trace of blood in the water, barely noticeable, was not a symbol of trust. It was a signal, and instinct was awake. The show erupted in thunder and applause. Mallow exploded from the water, 12,000 pounds of power arcing high into the blistering light, crashing down in a tidal spray that drenched the front rows. Children squealed, parents laughed, cameras caught every glittering drop. Jessica stood on the platform, every movement practiced, graceful, flawless. To the crowd, it was routine perfection, but beneath the surface, Mallow was not following routine. He circled differently now, slower, closer. His dorsal fin cut through the water in deliberate arcs, his black eyes never leaving Jessica. Not the eyes of a partner awaiting a cue, the eyes of a predator, calculating distance. Would you have noticed? Or would you, like Jessica, have mistaken it for trust? Jessica raised her hand, the signal for their signature move, their masterpiece. Mallow was supposed to dive deep, then rocket upward, launching her into the air like a comet of water and light. But he didn't dive. He hovered, motionless, inches below the surface, waiting. Jessica froze. Something was wrong. His swimming had shifted, no longer tight, disciplined circles, but a slow, drifting glide. And then, his eyes met hers. She had seen those eyes 1,000 times before, gleaming with energy or soft with trust. But this time, they lingered. Not playful, not eager. Something else. Something heavier. For a moment, her breath caught. A prickle raced along her skin. Was it defiance? Was it aggression? No. She convinced herself it was fear. Maybe the crowd, the noise, the flashing cameras, it had unsettled him. She thought he was looking to her for reassurance, for safety. So she steadied herself, forcing calm into her body, and gave the signal again. Hand steady, whistle sharp, trusting him. The audience leaned forward, unaware of the silence building in the pool. Then, Mallow sank. Relief flickered across Jessica's face. Maybe it was just hesitation. Maybe the bond still held. But from the depths, he came like a torpedo, a black and white missile erupting from the shadows. His massive head struck her from below, hurling her skyward. The crowd gasped, some clapped, thinking it was part of the act. It wasn't. Jessica hit the water hard, the impact tearing the air from her lungs. Before she could orient herself, before she could even see, Mallow lunged. The jaws closed, crushing, absolute, around her torso. And then, darkness. The pool erupted in white foam as he dragged her under. Above, the crowd's cheers turned into fractured screams. Trainers sprinted to the edges, whistles shrieking, recall buzzers pounding the water. But Mallow ignored them all. Jessica knew the drill. Stay calm, conserve oxygen, signal the release. She tapped, twisted, pressed against his rostrum in the cues they'd rehearsed for years. Nothing. Instead, Mallow rolled them both into the depths. Not thrashing, not chaos. Control. Cold. Deliberate. The deeper they sank, the heavier the water pressed. Jessica's lungs screamed. Her chest burned. Her heartbeat thundered in her ears. And then she heard it. Clicks. Low. Sharp. Echoes vibrating through her body. Mallow was scanning her. Studying her. Measuring her weakness with the sonar of an apex hunter. Her body convulsed for air. Instinct begged her to breathe, but all around her was only crushing blue. She fought to stay still, to resist. But Mallow twisted again, his teeth clamping tighter, dragging her sideways with the precision of a killer who knew exactly what he was doing. Suddenly, light above. He surged upward. Jessica's head broke the surface, one desperate gasp, before he yanked her down again with brutal force. The descent was faster, more violent. The water grew cold, silent, and then red. A bloom unfurled from her wetsuit, swirling like smoke in the current. Blood. Mallow's grip tightened instantly, instinct awakened fully now. Not a show, not confusion, the hunt. Above, the arena had collapsed into chaos. Children sobbed in their parents' arms, families stumbled for the exits, phones shook in trembling hands recording horror. On deck, trainers screamed her name, throwing rescue poles, slamming alarms, but nothing could break the predator's hold. When Mallow surfaced again, he rose in triumph. Jessica hung limp in his jaws, her hair plastered to her face, water streaming from her body. Gasps became wails. What had been a spectacle of wonder twisted into nightmare. By the time rescuers pulled her free, her wetsuit was shredded, her body broken. Medics worked frantically, compressions, oxygen, desperate pleas into silence. But Jessica Radcliffe was already gone. And so the truth stood, undeniable, the Orca she had loved, the partner she had trusted, had never stopped being what he was. A predator. Was it instinct alone? Or did Mallow know exactly what he was doing? Tell us in the comments. But the silence that followed was final. Ocean Haven called it a tragic accident, a freak event, unforeseeable. But staff whispered. Reports had been ignored, warnings buried, and everyone knew Mallow had shown his nature long before. Outside, grief swept the nation. Candles lined the gates. Children left stuffed whales by the entrance. Protesters demanded Mallow's release, calling him a prisoner driven mad. But the truth was darker. Mallow was not mad. He was not broken. He was exactly what nature made him to be. And Jessica mistook instinct for love. Jessica Radcliffe's ashes drifted into the Pacific, the same waters that had raised her, the same tide that had once carried her laughter as a child exploring tide pools with her father. The ocean that had given her everything now received her in silence. Mallow did not return to those waters. Instead, he remained at Ocean Haven, trapped within a concrete tank, a giant of the wild, reduced to circles of confinement. His towering presence, once the park's crown jewel, was now a shadow of something untamed, staring at walls instead of horizons. But Jessica's story is not only about one woman and one whale. It is about something deeper, a truth we often refuse to face. Her bond with Mallow was real. The trust she gave him was unshakable. Yet beneath it all lay an ancient tension, the thin line between wonder and danger, between affection and instinct. Jessica believed love could conquer that line. Mallow showed the world otherwise. Because the wild cannot be caged without consequence. It can be trained. It can be silenced. But it never forgets its nature. And when freedom is stripped away, it does not disappear, it waits. Patient, silent, until it returns. Jessica's death was not just a tragedy. It was a warning to those who believe nature can be bent for our entertainment, a warning to those who think the wild can be turned into spectacle without a price. It was a reminder that when we lock away freedom, when we shrink vast oceans into shallow tanks, we are not only reshaping animals, We are reshaping the risks around them. In the end, Jessica's story was not about betrayal. It was about inevitability, the cost of trying to hold on to something that was never meant to be held. And that is what makes this story endure, because it forces us to ask questions we'd rather avoid. Do we honor the bond between human and animal? Or do we exploit it? Do we remember the wild for what it is? Or do we pretend it can be something else? Jessica trusted Mallow with her life, and in the space of a heartbeat, that trust was shattered forever. This is Primal Bonds, where love, loyalty, and trust collapse into stories that haunt the human heart. But now I turn to you. Do you believe Jessica's fate was sealed the moment she entered Mallow's tank? Or was it a warning we chose to ignore? Another reminder that nature's power cannot be chained? Tell us your thoughts in the comments. And before you go, like, share, and subscribe, so you never miss the stories where trust breaks and nothing is ever the same again.